Hi, I'm Stewart from the Norfolk Honey Company, and welcome to our queen rearing apiaries here in Norwich for a review of 2017. I thought that today we would, instead of trying to do something practical because it's quite cold, we'd just have a quick look back at how 2017 has been and look at some of the successes that we've had and some of the challenges that we've also encountered in our beekeeping for this year. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Andy and Joe, who are my latest patrons, supporting us in producing these videos. And if you're interested in supporting us, then take a look at our Patreon page, and I'll put all the details in the description below. So for this year, I guess some of the major successes have been through the YouTube channel. We're fast approaching 6,000 subscribers, and I'm delighted that we've had almost 500,000 views of our videos, which is absolutely staggering. And I guess one of the pleasing things is that we were able to provide 3 videos per week, which were hopefully instructional, but also showed that beekeeping is not particularly difficult to get started, but takes a lifetime to master. And if you're new to beekeeping, then I would say get stuck in, give it a go, and just keep learning every day that you're in front of your bees. We've also just broken the 200 videos in our channel, so this year, having produced so many videos and added them to those that I tentatively started some time back, we've now broken through the 200 video barrier. I'm sure that next year we'll be producing just as many videos as we have this year. So on to the beekeeping successes. I guess one of the major successes for us has been our queen rearing. The fact that we have tried so many different methods over this summer and discovered some of the successful ways of producing queens, but also some of the pitfalls that we've also encountered. I guess one of the best things was that we were able to try out different techniques, and hopefully you've seen some of those, and we'll put some links up relating to some of the different videos. But we took a look at the Miller method, which is the method where we cut the comb into a tooth shape and use the cells within that, and that was quite successful. More successful still was the alley method, and that's the method where you cut a thin strip of cells away from a frame and then attach it to another frame before putting it into the cell builder colony. And I think that was our most successful method of producing queens last summer. We also tried the cell punch method, and I was very pleased to have the support of Beekeeping, the bee suit manufacturers here in the UK, who supplied us with the cell punches. That wasn't quite so successful, but at least we were able to get into a colony and use the cell punches and see how the mechanics of it worked. And we'll talk some more about that when we come to the challenges of the year. I think the method that I was most excited about was the Nico method. That was the small plastic block that you could trap the queen in and produce literally tens of larvae that you could then put into cell builder colonies and produce lots of queens. And I think next year that will probably be the one method that we go to produce lots more queens, and that's something that I want to do next year. If you've seen all of the videos that we published through the summer, you'll have seen possibly one of the simplest methods of producing a queen, which is hive splitting, so splitting down a colony into nukes and having queen cells within those nukes that then emerge. The virgin queens go off and mate, and you're left with a nucleus colony with a well-mated laying queen. And that's one of the easiest ways that you can produce queens and also expand the number of colonies that you've got. For all the new beekeepers out there, I was really pleased that we were able to take a nuke right from the start and all the way through to building it up into a full-size colony, and that was in our Getting Started playlist, where we took the nuke from our queen rearing site and took it over to the allotment apiary, where we developed it into a very strong colony that produced some honey and is now overwintering, and I think is going to be a really good colony for the spring. If you're new to beekeeping and you haven't yet seen the Getting Started series, take a look at our playlists and do have a look at it. There's lots of useful information in there that beginner beekeepers in particular will find quite useful, along with the identification of a pesky wax moth that I never really found. But take a look at that and see what you think. And I think probably the allotment series of videos was one of the most successful set of videos that we've done for beginner beekeepers. In terms of the challenges for the summer, we certainly had a few. With our queen rearing, I think the cell punch method was one that I really didn't get to grips with, and that was purely through beekeeping error. We never really got any queen cells produced through the cell punch method, or certainly not any quantity. And subsequently, having tried to work out exactly what was going on, I discovered that the cell builder colony had actually produced a queen, and they had a queen in the colony, so they weren't going to produce any more queen cells. And that was after we'd put the cell punch in for the second time. So these things happen. It's just one of those things, and we'll give it another go next year because I think it's quite a useful method. And again, my thanks to BBWare for providing us with the equipment to do that. Another area that we found quite challenging, certainly that I found quite challenging, was the successful use of queen mating nukes. We've only used them in limited quantities and infrequently, and the success rate that we had with those was quite low, and so I'm going to take a look at exactly how we set them up and the best way that we can use them for next season, and we'll give them another go. We need to do a couple of repairs to some of them because it looks as if we've suffered from some rat damage, but I'm going to give them another go because I think they're quite effective, particularly when we're trying to produce a lot of queens at the same time. So with the queen rearing, what I'm particularly trying to do is to breed the very best bees for our location, but with an eye towards the native British black bee. And I'd really like to have our bees heavily weighted in our native British black bee rather than having maybe Italian strains drifting in. One of the problems that we do face is that there are a lot of imported bees in this area, and that doesn't help when it comes to mating. And what I've got to get better at is identifying those queens that are not suitable, and particularly the lighter coloured queens, and being more proactive in culling those queens and not using them in any of our stock. The other thing we need to do is to increase the number of drones that we have from the right stocks, and so we'll be introducing some more drone foundation into those colonies that we want to produce drones from, so we get a better chance of successful mating with the drones that we want our virgin queens to mate with. And finally, the weather played its part this year in that we had a period of fairly cold and damp weather, and that suppressed the honey production at particular times, and so we didn't get the amount of honey that perhaps we had hoped for. Maybe if we'd had more of our British black bees, they would have been out foraging in the cooler conditions. However, we did get a reasonable crop of honey, and so I can't complain too much about that. And so that's probably the worst of the beekeeping that we had, really. We didn't struggle with lots of losses in bee colonies, and the nukes that we had all developed well into decent sized colonies, and we're overwintering quite a number of those now, so hopefully they'll all be ready for the spring. So I guess summarising all of that, the greatest success for me personally in my beekeeping for 2017 was being able to share my knowledge with everyone out there, and seeing the number of subscribers and the really nice comments that people are leaving, coming back and I guess giving us the enthusiasm and confidence to continue producing the videos. And the biggest challenge for us was a combination of the cell punch method in queen rearing. I never really got to grips with that as well as I'd like to, but also the problem that I suffered with my back, and I'm going to have to take care of my back moving forward. And thank you to everyone out there that's offered up lots of tips and advice for ways of protecting my back, and I'm certainly going to employ some of those into the new year. The biggest task now is to really get on top of all of the cleaning, and I'm delighted that I've got some help from some friends of mine, and hopefully we can get everything prepared for the new year. We're going to produce a few more videos as we go through the winter period, and we'll show you some techniques such as the oxalic acid trickle method and a few other bits and pieces as well, but the videos will increase as we get back into the new season, and I look forward to sharing those with you. The next video is going to be my planning for next year, so I hope you'll join me for that. Don't forget that we have our Facebook group, which is growing stronger day by day, and there's lots of people there helping out with new beekeepers' questions and offering up lots of tips and techniques. And we're also on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find all of the information down in the description below. So that's it for now. For those of you that aren't aware, I'm about to dash off to America to visit my daughter, who's studying at Penn State University. So if you're in Pennsylvania and you fancy meeting up for a beer, then drop me a message. This will be the last video pre-Christmas. For those of you on Patreon, look out for an American special where I'm going to shoot a few videos when I'm visiting my daughter and hopefully visit one or two beekeepers over there. But until next time, have a very Merry Christmas, and thanks for watching.